Well, good morning. Um, During the pandemic, we have, as a city, instituted a host of measures aimed at combating homelessness in our community. We have relied on our city county council to approve CARES Act funding to address the needs of our unsheltered neighbors. That has allowed us to add public bathrooms, sanitary stations, and most significantly, homeless shelter overflow in hotels, parks, and elsewhere. And for their leadership, we are immensely grateful. To our city county council. So today, we will add to those efforts thanks to $7 million in CARES Act funding from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. This funding will be put towards rapid rehousing for individuals who are currently housed in non-congregate shelters, as well as accommodations for those currently sleeping outside, unsheltered. So I want to thank and acknowledge two of our partners in this effort who are with us today. Merchants Affordable Housing Corporation, who will administer these funds, and the Coalition for Homelessness Intervention and Prevention, who, as all of you know, quarterbacks the implementation strategy for our community plan to end homelessness. I also want to take the time to thank the Glick Fund, who will provide support for a full-time coordinator position for this effort. Today's announcement occurs on the heels of the first Housing to Recovery Fund grant award, which was made just a few weeks ago to Horizon House, where that program provides funding for critical supportive services to keep people stably housed. This ESG funding will provide up to 12 months of rental assistance. Aligning those two sources can reduce the number of people who are forced to sleep outside while freeing up valuable space within our reduced capacity shelters. So I want to thank Chelsea Herring-Cozy, Executive Director of the Coalition for Homelessness Intervention and Prevention, as well as Janine Betsy, President and CEO of Merchants Affordable Housing Corporation. So there's still plenty of work to do. But today, thanks to the commitment of those partners, these agencies, the ones who are joining us today, more Indianapolis residents will have a place they can call home. And that's a good thing. So I would now like to invite Chelsea from CHIP to provide some more information. Chelsea, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, and good morning, everyone. Thank you to Mayor Hogsett for your continued commitment to Housing First and your unwavering support for finding permanent solutions for those living unhoused here in Indianapolis. Thank you also to Janine Betsy and the team at Merchants Affordable Housing for bringing your expertise and years of experience to these efforts. And thank you to the Blueprint Council for your leadership and to our Continuum of Care partners for what you do every day to champion, advocate, and implement strategies to end homelessness here in Indianapolis. CHIP is thrilled to be part of this transformative and catalytic opportunity and partnership to accelerate and scale rapid rehousing solutions for those experiencing homelessness. Rapid rehousing is an evidence-based best practice that has been the primary solution for ending homelessness for years. Rapid rehousing provides short to medium-term rental assistance and supportive services to help people obtain housing quickly while increasing self-sufficiency and supporting housing stability. It is offered without preconditions such as employment, income, sobriety, or absence of criminal or eviction history. Rapid rehousing incorporates three key components: finding landlords, apartments, and units, helping pay for rent for people to get into and maintain housing, and connecting people to services, including employment for long-term stability. 90% of those housed in rapid rehousing programs remain housed after 2 years and do not return to homelessness. As the backbone and lead agency for the Indianapolis Continuum of Care, CHIP will support the coordination, alignment, and management of our collective efforts to implement this rapid rehousing initiative. Today's announcement is exciting for so many reasons. First, it provides the opportunity to rehouse hundreds of households currently experiencing homelessness. It demonstrates our city's commitment to use ESG CV funds strategically and in a way that prioritizes resources for the most vulnerable, because we know that homelessness is incompatible with health. So in order to keep more people safe and healthy in the midst of this public health crisis, it is essential for communities to use ESG CV funding to rehouse as many people currently experiencing homelessness as possible, including, as Mayor Hogsett said, those living unsheltered, in temporary non-congregate hotels, and those staying in congregate shelters to keep numbers low. It is critical that these strategies are driven by a commitment to racial equity and addressing racial disparities across our systems. We must use rapid rehousing differently and in direct response to the current needs of households by extending the length of rental assistance up to 12 months and providing connections to services that support longer-term stability, income and employment, and self-sufficiency. Today's announcement and investment strategy aligns with our broader vision and strategies laid out in the Indianapolis Community Plan to End Homelessness, our Continuum of Care, and City's 5-year strategic plan. It reinforces our belief that everyone has the right to be housed and connected to care, and our collective commitment to reducing the length of time anyone spends unhoused, expanding the availability and access to safe, supportive, and permanent housing, and it shifts our efforts from managing homelessness to ending it. So as articulated today, we have the political and collective will, the resources and proven solutions, and now through partnerships with Merchants Affordable Housing, we have the opportunity to build and expand our capacity to do this work at the scale needed and required by this funding and in response to this public health crisis. So without further delay, I would like to turn it over to Janine Betsy, President and CEO of Merchants Affordable Housing Corporation.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Merchants Affordable Housing Corporation is excited to strategically partner with CHIP and the City of Indianapolis on this initiative by fulfilling 2 primary roles: to act as the fiscal agent and to build out our housing acquisitions team. This effort aligns with our mission of using our resources and expertise to increase access to quality, affordable rental housing for those facing barriers. We believe that housing is healthcare, and COVID has added additional housing challenges to those who are most vulnerable in our community. MAHC has created a separate entity to fulfill these roles. This entity has the financial capacity to effectively and quickly administer these centralized ESG CV2 funds. This will allow us to implement a system-facing housing acquisition teams with the expertise to engage landlords at a high level, hold units on behalf of clients during the housing search, expand the inventory of participating units, leverage flexible funds to rapidly overcome barriers, and utilize landlord incentives to keep people in stable, permanent housing. The initiative is targeting an estimated 500 individuals and families who are experiencing homelessness, including 350 in non-congregate shelters to reduce shelter and unsheltered populations and those who are at risk of COVID-19 infection and death. Additionally, there'll be another 150 unsheltered households who have high barriers, who may not be eligible for non-congregate shelters that we will work to find housing for. The award from the city will be used approximately $1 million on supportive services that will be awarded to partnering service providers, about $5.4 million in rental assistance, and no more than $712,000 in administrative expenses. This budget was based on our modeling done in partnership with CHIP and the mayor's office that included guidance received from HUD Technical Assistance. Merchants Affordable is ecstatic to work on this very important initiative, and our team has been hard at work planning so we can hit the ground running and get people housed immediately. Thank you.
We'll now open it up for questions. As always, if you'll put your name and outlet in the Q&A box, we'll call on you and unmute your microphone, and you'll be able to ask your question of the group. Our first question is from Eric Burnham at WIBC.
Hello. My question is for Chelsea. We've talked before, one of the challenges of homelessness is people who don't want to come off the street, who have problems for whatever reason with going into shelter. How does this program reach those in a way that past programs haven't?
Hi, Eric, and thank you for your question. So this work is done in partnership with existing work happening, particularly with our service provider communities that are doing very intense and robust engagement with individuals who are living unhoused. Part of the work does require engaging individuals who are currently experiencing homelessness that may have barriers, that may be struggling with mental health issues, that may be struggling with addiction, to develop those relationships and to be able to work with people coming into housing. So it requires robust work of service providers and street outreach teams to engage with individuals, meet them where they are, and then be able to offer opportunities for housing. But it is still very much driven on client choice, and so that continued engagement will be vital to ensuring people have access to and options for obtaining housing.
The next question is from Russ McQuaid at Fox.
I'm assuming this is primarily aimed at folks who find themselves in a sheltered situation as opposed to folks who may be the result of pandemic-related evictions. And then also, is this similar to like the Section 8 program where these folks get vouchers and then find a landlord or a steward to a landlord willing to accept such a voucher?
Chelsea, do you mind taking this one?
Sure, absolutely. So this program is targeted to those who are literally experiencing homelessness now. There are other efforts being targeted to those who may be facing eviction, who are currently in housing, including the city's rent relief program. So this is not eviction prevention. This is for those currently experiencing homelessness. Rental assistance does not come in the form of a voucher like Section 8. It is rental assistance that will be paid directly through landlords. And I think, as Janine talked about, individuals will not be on their own to try to secure housing. There will be a team of folks that are working with landlords and properties across the city to have more units available to expand inventory and to really help assist with housing search and placement.
Our next question is from Abdul Hakim Shabazz at Indie Politics.
Yes, good afternoon. Two questions real quick. Number one, where exactly is the housing going to be, or have you folks figured that out yet? Because of with the eviction moratorium that's been taking place right now, where is the housing going to be? And number two, not to be the bad guy here, but we've seen program after program after program to deal with the homeless issue in Indianapolis, but the situation hasn't seemed to have gotten any better. It seems like every time there's a new program out there, but our homeless population doesn't really change. So how will this be different than other previous homeless programs in the past?
It seems that we're having a few WebEx issues on our end. Chelsea, if you want to go ahead, that's great.
Sure, absolutely. So the housing is scattered site. These are not project-based, so it will be throughout the city of Indianapolis, Marion County. And again, the expertise and experience that Merchants Affordable Housing is bringing to this is to help locate units across the city and to engage landlords to be able to identify those units and expand inventory. So it's scattered site all over the city. And the goal is to get more and more landlords and properties engaged in as part of this initiative. In terms of how is this different, I think part of the work is we have to continue staying focused on long-term solutions. Bringing those long-term solutions to the table takes time, but there are some things converging right now that I think are creating kind of the perfect formula to really ramp up and scale these efforts. One is the investment of rental assistance that we are talking about here today. We have not had rental assistance to this scale historically, but the other part of that is supportive services. Housing is a piece of this puzzle, but housing in and itself is not the solution. So having robust supportive services is another key piece that we've worked over the last several years in partnership with the city and the Central Indiana Community Foundation to build up the Housing to Recovery Fund. That fund will be leveraged alongside this program to bring more robust and intensive services to support people, not only in getting in housing, but maintaining housing. And then I think we continue to build our continuum and our network to connect people with the vital resources they need once in housing. So we have units, rental assistance, and supportive services all coming to the table at once now, and that is what it's going to take to do this work and to do it at scale.
Our next question is from Jill Sheridan at WFYI. Jill, you're going to have to give me 2 seconds in order to click over to you. You said we're having technical difficulties this morning. Jill, you can go ahead with your question.
Chelsea, on the supportive services, can you just talk a little bit more about what the priorities are there? Is it employment, mental health?
So the goal with services is to, again, meet people where they are. Everyone has their own unique challenges and barriers that led them to living unhoused. So services are matched with people based on what their barriers and needs are. So that can be inclusive of absolutely employment, re-employment for many, expanding income support, getting connected with substance abuse treatment for those who want to and are ready, connecting with mental health services and primary care services to address behavioral and physical health issues. So part of the work is really identifying what someone's barriers are and where they are, meeting them where they are, and then starting to wrap around services that address those needs. Employment will be a huge piece of this. We have to get people back connected to the workforce and connect to good and promising jobs for longer term housing stability.
And it looks like our last question is from Russ McQuaid at Fox 59.
Thanks. For the mayor, do you expect that this program in the months between now and the end of the year will make a real dent in the population of folks we have seen congregating throughout the day in the public places in downtown Indianapolis?
Well, Russ, I certainly hope so. The perception that people have of homelessness downtown right now is a bit misleading because, frankly, there are just a lot of people that are not coming downtown who normally would be part of our workforce and who are still working remotely and probably will be until the end of this year. My point is that as a result, it has heightened people's perception of our neighbors who find themselves homeless, when in reality the numbers aren't particularly higher than at any other time. And then, of course, with the oncoming of cold weather, the need for housing becomes even more acute. So, In answer to your question, I do think that this is the beginning of a collective effort by our community to address those three of homelessness that Chelsea was articulating in a coordinated way. And I understand that this won't be done overnight. Sometimes progress is frustratingly slow, but nonetheless, progress is being made, and I am committed to doing whatever the community needs to do, as we collectively have committed to ending homelessness as we know it in the city of Indianapolis. And I look forward to that day when we're able to celebrate everyone having a shelter.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us today. A release will be going out here in a few minutes. And if you have any follow-up questions, don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you so much.